think we should do a little more Commonwealth recap. Supporters Club members, we broke down the men's 1500 meter on the Supporters Club show. We have a second podcast every week. Rojo and I talked about it for about 30 minutes. So join the Supporters Club today. letsrun.com/subscribe. Get a second podcast. You save 20% on running shoes. This is the subscription that pays for itself. So join today. But as we were recording Supporters Club podcast, the women's 800 was about to go off. We thought it was going off in 10 minutes, but it was actually an hour later. We have not talked about that. But John, I think the big race for most of Let's Run Nation was this men's 1500 meters. And that was the one we were all most excited about heading into Worlds. And this race delivered in so many ways. And our regular people, we love you guys. We got to give you some love here on this race as well. So, John, what are your impressions on the men's 1500?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a race. I was driving back my final day of my road trip back home, and I wanted to pull over and watch it on the side of the road, but I didn't have a way to get a VPN on my phone. But then you sent me the entire race, and you didn't spoil the outcome. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I watch it. It was fantastic. And like you guys said on the Supporters Club show, it was pretty similar to the World Championship final. Very quick race, winning time of 3:30.12. And Jake Whiteman tried to do the same thing he did in Eugene. He took the lead with about 200 to go, but he couldn't get the gap this time. Chariot came back on him, and then steaming on the outside is Ollie Hoare, and timed his kick perfectly, gets redemption. You could tell it meant a lot to him to get the win. He was the first Aussie to win the Commonwealth Games men's 1500 title since Herb Elliott in 1958. And, I'm happy for Ollie because he had such a horrible, he choked basically. He ran a terrible tactical race in the semis at Worlds and didn't make it to the final. And he's taken some criticism from you guys, from Robert on this podcast this year, not believing in him. And I think he showed, on his day, he's one of the best in the world. And obviously that World Championships is going to haunt him. But he rocked up against Kipsang, against Chariot, against Whiteman, some of the very best in the world. No Ingebrigtsen, obviously, and got it done. So impressive run by him. But just that's why the 1500 is the best, right? You've got the world champion in here, and he, like you guys said, was probably the favorite coming in, Whiteman, but we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it could have been Kipsang and Chariot. One of them could have dropped someone at the end of the race, or could have been Josh Kerr, who was fifth at Worlds and then fades all the way to last. He was horrible in this race. It's so many fast times. That was the real thing that really stuck out to me, was looking at these finishing times. Because last place, Kerr ran 3:35 to finish last in this race. That was like surprising to me. I mean, he obviously didn't have a good run, but you just go down the list of names and, Hoare 3:30, the top four guys all around 3:30. Jake Hayward, 3:31 PB in fifth. Sam Tanner, who's 21, 3:31 PB in sixth. Matthew Stonia from England, 3:32 PB. He's only 20 years old in seventh. You go down even 10th place. Will Poulsen, Princeton alum, runs 3:33, ties his PB. It was just a really high quality race, really exciting finish. It was tremendous.
John, I don't want to go negative to start, but my other thing is, thinking about these times the last few years, it's like 3:30, the old 3:33, 3:34. It's essentially like the old 3:34 sort of championship race. I mean, the times are just so fast, and I don't think these guys are that much better than the people 5 years ago. Now, maybe some of that you could argue there's less sort of Kenyan stars. I don't know if that's a crackdown on doping or what. I mean, I'm starting to view some of these long-held paradigms ahead in the sport differently, but you're consistently seeing sort of 3:30 championship races now. I mean, well, I guess we've seen 3 in a row if you count this Worlds and the Olympics. Different races, but it was crazy how similar this race was to the Worlds at Eugene.
Yeah, it's a combination of things, Weldon. I think 3:30 now is probably 3:32 mid, maybe 3:33 from a couple of years ago. But you've also got some of the very best guys willing to just push the pace early on, whether it's Chariot, whether it's Abel Kipsang, whether it's Jakob Ingebrigtsen. So the combination of those two things, that's why we're getting the really fast times in these finals.
But what we haven't seen is the fast times up front. We haven't seen the 328s and 329s become 326s and 327s because of the shoes. But remember, when we had a discussion about if the shoes are making an impact from the back of the field, why on the top of the field, that's when John Kellogg said, no, I think these guys could run 324 with a rabbit the whole way. But to me, I've been analyzing this stuff differently ever since he told me that. Here we have another race where the person that pushes the pace loses. So moving forward, you might not want to do that, guys. So that was a great race. It was fun to see. Here's my question. Which would you rather do? Win a bronze at Worlds or have won this gold medal?
I think in a vacuum, I say the bronze at the World Championships, because on the whole, I think a bronze at a World Championship is more impressive than Commonwealth Games gold, if you're talking about the average of the events. But in this event specifically, this was a loaded field. So you could argue that a gold in this race is more impressive than the bronze from Eugene. I don't know. That's a tough question for me. I think I would lean towards bronze at Worlds, but if Ollie Hoare had beaten a bunch of spares and won this gold, it's clearly the bronze medal at Worlds. But considering how good this field was, you could make a case for the gold at Commonwealths.
Right. And what made this race special was the fact that Jake Whiteman was in it. Thank you, Jake, for trying to win it, not running the 800. And all these guys showed up and there was a huge crowd. It seemed like a big moment where sometimes Commonwealth's in a weird time of year. Not everyone goes. People like Mohamed didn't go this year, whatever. The more people say this, our sport says this is important, they actually then ends up being important. So this was just, I think, wonderful for the sport to have this event, to have this race count and mean something. Some of the other races weren't as loaded, but it didn't seem like, we're putting an asterisk next to it just because everyone wasn't in it.
John, yeah, in a vacuum, I think you say to Hoare, which do you take? He takes the world's bronze. If you say now, hey, you can trade this for the world's bronze, he says no. I mean, he was so overcome with emotion on the ground afterwards at the race. That leads us, folks, message board post of the week. Who says there's no positivity on Let'sRun.com? There's a post by Big Dosh. And this is all the post was. Amazing run. His emotion when he won shows how much it meant in World's Hurt. All heart. That post, folks, 122 votes, not a single downvote. That's almost impossible. You can click the wrong button there, people. I mean, there was a post, some jackass told Jordan Hesse to retire, and somebody said, hey, maybe she could move on, but she's a great runner. She can do what she wants. It got like 100 plus something upvotes, but one downvote. You always see the one guy who wants to ruin the party, but not here. So thank you, Big Dosh. Thank you, Ollie. Big Dosh gets the Let'sRun.com shirt of his choice. Shop.letsrun.com. Softest running shirts in the business. Check them out now. I see Rojo's got his shirt on right now. John, do you too?
I do. It's again, there's no lies about that softest shirts in business. Everyone I talk to who gets one of these shirts, and I have a whole bunch of them in my room right now because Robert flew them out to Eugene and left me with the bag. Everyone who wears them are like, oh my God, this is so comfortable. This is like the most comfortable, softest shirt I've ever worn. So there's a reason I wear it around the house, people. And it looks good too.
You guys are both wearing the blue, which actually I was wearing earlier today too. So I think there's becoming a preference. The yellow shirt we should save for like championship racing, that sort of stuff. Blue, day-to-day casual wear.
John, are you going to start sending out the shirts one by one like me and John Kellogg do, or do you want to ship those to me? We have an Olympian waiting for his shirt.
I would rather you take care of it. So I'd like to ship it back to you if possible, or I don't know if you could wait till New York City Marathon or something when I drop things off. But yeah, ideally I wouldn't become the shipping boy, but yeah. I am an employee of this company, so I'll do what I need to do. All right, shall we go back to the track action in the Commonwealth Games? Robert, you wanted to talk about the women's 1500?